final race of the season. Welcome to the Circuit Barcelona, Catalonia for the final race of the 2015 International GTOpen season. It is a glorious autumnal day for this 14th and final round of the season. Well, yesterday we saw Miguel Ramos and Alvaro Parent crowned as our 2015 champions for Teo Martin Motorsport, but who is going to leave the season on a high with the pride of the last win of the year? Well, it's a warm welcome from myself, Ben Evans, to a sunny if blustery day here just outside the centre of Barcelona, as we have got a huge field of supercars assembled ready for this final hour of competition for 2015. The grid for this race was set in a qualifying session that took place mid-morning, and it was Ewan Hankey in the TF Sport Aston Martin who qualified in pole position. A big thumbs up from Hankey. He and Sally Yuluk have been hugely impressive since joining the championship at Spa. They shared the front row with yesterday's race winners in the second of the Teo Martin Motorsport McLarens. That is Andrew Watson and Fernando Monnier. It was Watson who was chasing down the Thoras late on, who was at the wheel when the car took the checker flag, and he starts today. Third on the grid is the extremely experienced Dutch racer Peter Cox, who set the fastest lap in yesterday's race, as the Cox McLaren makes a welcome return to the championship with Nico Pronk alongside him. And then fourth on the grid, one of our wildcard entries for this weekend, that's the TDS Racing BMW of Henri Hassid and Franck Pereira, and it is Franck Pereira, very experienced French racer, who will be taking to the start. Alessandro Balzan at the wheel of the Vlorba Course Ferrari lines up in fifth place. He and Nicola Bonucci would dearly love to sign off the season with a podium. Balzan looking very relaxed in the cockpit. It was a wretched day yesterday for Raffaele Giammaria and Ezequiel Perez Compenac Jr. Contact at the first turn, putting Perez Compenac into the gravel trap. Raffaele Giammaria afterwards was quite phlegmatic, recognises that that's racing, but he can challenge for the win from sixth on the grid. Jose Perez Icart in the Mondial competition RS01 could spring a surprise in the early stages of the race. Driver who was such a star in the SMP Russian Bears Ferrari last season. Here is our 2015 champion, Teo Martin Motorsports, Miguel Ramos, the car that he and Alvaro Parent share. And Ramos, after so many years of trying, finally claiming the title. Ninth on the grid, and probably disappointed a bit with ninth, is Phil Keane in the Balf Motorsport Ferrari. Phil will be aiming to carve through the field in the early stages. Here then is how they line up in full. So Hankey and Watson on the front row, two young chargers. Then we have got Peter Cox and Franck Pereira on to the second row, and all Ferrari row three, Alessandro Balzan and Raffaele Giammaria. Fourth row of the grid, Jose Perez Icart and Miguel Ramos. Watch to see how Icart goes. Both drivers on row 5, Phil Keane and Matt Griffin, would be disappointed to be down there. And the same goes for row 6 with Thomas Biaggi and passing the Thoras. The Krypton Porsche was very quick during the race yesterday. Ilya Melnikov lines up in 7th place to the 4 of GTAM, just clear of Yannick Malagol. Then we've got Miguel Amaral and Coach McKenzie on row 8, with Miguel Sardinia and Reliant de Ward completing the field on row 9. Green flag is waved and the cars set off on the final formation lap of the season, with Ewan Hankey leading the way. So all the cars running on the control compound Michelin tyre, just taking the opportunity to get a little bit of heat into the rubber, because what we have seen with the Michelin tyre, which was new for 2015, is that it has offered absolutely exceptional performance, but it does just take 1 or 2 laps to get up to optimal operating temperature. We've seen a couple of times this season drivers being caught out, and therefore, although it is a lovely sunny day, it is a little bit breezy, and they'll want to get the heat into the tyre. There you see the championship permutations, and what it really means is the top 3 places in the standings are all pretty much settled. Parent and Ramos from the Thoras and Rugolo, then Gia Maria and Perez Componac, but the battle for the most victories in 2015 is still up for grabs. Rugolo and the Thoras have had 3, and it has been 4 wins for Gia Maria and Perez Componac. Will they be able to make it 5? Or will we possibly see a 4th win for the Teo Martin Motorsport McLaren of Ramos and Parent, although they are carrying significant success second handicaps through the pit stops, and that throws the door a little bit wider open to the rest of the field. So the pack bunching up on the formation lap, getting ready for the rolling start, just heading uphill out of turn 8 towards turn 9, which is one of the points of the circuit where they really are turning in to the crosswind before heading down towards the one of the main overtaking opportunities into turn 10. So we're just away from the start of the final race of the International GTOpen season. Thank you very much for joining us in Barcelona today. It is an hour-long race. There is, of course, the mandatory pit stop that will be taking place during the middle phase of the race. The pit window open from when we're 24 minutes into the race until we're 36 minutes into the race. That is going to open up the strategic dimension, as will the impact of success seconds. Henri Hassid is taking his moment to be the TV start in the TDS Racing pit, as now it is the blue and electric yellow TF Sport Aston Martin of Ewan Hankey who paces the field. The Teo Martin Motorsport team, their car of Andrew Watson, shares the front row with Hankey as the field head through the final turn. We're about to go racing for the last time in 2015. We wait for the red lights to change, which they do now, and away we go. And it's a brilliant start from Jose Perez Icart and also Franck Pereira as the pack charge towards turn 1. And it's Pereira in the TDS BMW squeezing through. It's 3 or 4 wide further back. Balzan takes to the grass. They get on the brakes for the first corner, and Watson leads the way through. There's contact, and would you believe it, it's Gia Maria who's caught up in it, but it's Franck Pereira who ends up in the gravel trap. Jose Perez Icart picks up some damage in the RS01 and pulls off the road as well. There were just so many cars wide into turn 1, and there, sadly, is Franck Pereira in the TDS BMW. Frustration in the TDS garage and a rueful shake of the head as out front it is Ewan Hankey who leads. Second place is Watson. It was Watson. He makes contact with Ewan Hankey who goes around into the gravel trap. And then it's Balzan who's now second. Phil Keane is third, and Ewan Hankey is sadly beached in the gravel trap. So Watson from Balzan, then Keane, then Matt Griffin, and then Peter Cox. The order suddenly completely changed early on. Thomas Biaggi's also had a good start, as had Ilya Melnikov, as they come out of turn 9 and fan out on the brakes to turn 10. Watson runs wide, in fact, into turn 10. I think Balzan's going to get through. Indeed, he does. Alessandro Balzan from 5th on the grid now leads the way in the Valour Course Ferrari. Phil Keane is up into 3rd and already applying the pressure to Andrew Watson. He's got then Matt Griffin snapping at his heels. And this has been certainly the most dramatic first lap of the season, as the field jink their way through the chicane. Here's another look then at the start. It was 4, almost 5 wide into turn 1, and Pereira got squeezed, and then Perez Eichart turned across and made contact with the front suspension on Pereira's car, which I think did the damage to the BMW and also damaged the suspension on the Renault of Perez Eichart, and Raffaele Giammaria was pushed out wide, fortunately without damage, and he was able to recover. But 2 potentially very quick cars lost from the race early on. It's just the risk. Turn 1, and then that was Andrew Watson just misjudging, I think, the braking point and crunching in to the TF Sport Aston Martin of Ewan Hankey, who as yet remains beached in the gravel trap. We'll find out in due course. Here, though, is the race leader, Alessandro Balzan. He's got that gap over Andrew Watson. Then it's Phil Keane. Matt Griffin has got Peter Cox all over his tail there. Sadly, is the tractor about to affect the recovery of the TF Sport Aston Martin. And there is Jose Perez Eicart's Renault RS01. It's just one of those instances you sometimes get. They were so competitive into the first corner, and unfortunately they didn't all quite fit. And it was the chain reaction and that side-on-side contact really between Pereira and Perez Eichart that damaged the suspension of both cars. There is a very frustrated Franck Pereira. Oh, another car in trouble. It's Matt Griffin over at turn 10 who rotates. So Matt Griffin rotates at turn 10. That is most uncharacteristic to see the car of Matt Griffin in a spin. And it has given us now a completely different complexion on the race than perhaps we originally anticipated, particularly as Thomas Biaggi has also found a way up ahead of Peter Cox. Across the line we come. This completes lap 2. Alessandro Balzan leads the way. Second place is Andrew Watson. Third is Phil Keane. And here is another look at it. Peter Cox looking to the inside of Matt Griffin. Griffin turns across. Cox bumps across the curb and turns Griffin around. So the order is Balzan from Watson, then Phil Keane in third. Fourth is this car, the Krypton Motorsport Porsche of Thomas Biaggi. Fifth is Peter Cox. Sixth is Ilya Melnikov. Seventh, Miguel Ramos. Eighth, Raffaele Giammaria. Ninth is Passing the Thoras. And 10th is Matt Griffin. And, well, what is going to happen from here on in? Ramos is up behind Ilya Melnikov, but Melnikov has been very impressive in the GTOpen class all the way through the year, as Raffaele Giammaria tries to size up an opening to the inside of Miguel Ramos as he recovers from the first corner, and he's able to fight his way through. In fact, as they swoop through turn 6, on the brakes into turn 7, and gaining the place is Raffaele Giammaria. That moves him up into 7th position. I suspect his, of course, teammate Ilya Melnikov won't provide too much distraction thereafter. Meanwhile, that's Miguel Amaral having a huge spin at turn 3. He skirts with the gravel trap, and has he got out of there? I think he has. This is possibly just the drivers being caught out a little bit with the crosswinds. We're only 5 minutes into the race and nothing has settled down as yet, except so Alessandro Balzan leading the way. Andrew Watson, not unsurprisingly, is under investigation and has got a drive-through penalty. So Watson from second place in the Teo Martin Motorsport McLaren, he has got a drive-through penalty for causing a collision. So that's going to promote Phil Keane to second, Thomas Biaggi to third, and then so on and so forth. There's the confirmation on your screen of the drive-through penalty for Watson. Wave of yellow flags still into turn 1 as the recovery of Franck Pereira's car continues. And then we've also still got the recovery, of course, of the Renault of Jose Perez Eichart. So it's only now that Raffaele Giammaria can look to line up the move on Ilya Melnikov, which he contemplates into turn 4, and he darts for it at the last moment. Great move there from Raffaele Giammaria up into now 5th place, into 6th place. This is the fight for 4th and 5th between Thomas Biaggi and Peter Cox. Biaggi, an ex-Formula 3000 racer, also was very quick in the Superstars series as well, before moving across to GT racing. Tractor Motorsport Porsche returning to the championship after a fairly unfortunate weekend at the Red Bull Ring, where they were very quick in free practice until the car came a very, very distant second in a disagreement with the tyre wall. But they have returned Barcelona and have been immediately bang on the pace. Peter Cox, always an aggressive competitor in the Cox McLaren. He set the fastest lap in yesterday's race and is now hassling and harrying Thomas Biaggi. Of course, we've got the drive-through penalty that is to be served by Andrew Watson, so that's going to promote this fight to the one for third place. And indeed, it does so now. Andrew Watson through the pit lane with that drive-through. Here's another look. Arguably not the toughest decision that the stewards have had to make this season, but nonetheless a great shame, because I was really looking forward to seeing how the TF Sport Aston Martin was going to go with Ewan Hankey. Meanwhile, flashing his headlights is Matt Griffin in pursuit of passing Lathoras. The pair of them are teammates AF Course, and Lathoras taking the outside track through turn 3. Griffin to the inside, glides past, gains the place. Don't think Lathoras would fight that too hard, as now Peter Cox finds the way past Thomas Biaggi into turn 5. We didn't see the start of the move, we did see the end of it. That was opportunistic stuff from Peter Cox, and now that he's released into third place, can he do anything about chasing down Phil Keane? There is Raffaele Giammaria trying to close up to the pair of them, and Giammaria a little bit quicker indeed than both of them last time around. Fastest car in the race is the race leader, Alessandro Balzan. There is Duncan Cameron, and he will be taking over from Matt Griffin at mid-distance as we focus on the fight for 6th and 7th between Ilya Melnikov, Miguel Ramos and Matt Griffin. Oh, and Melnikov makes the mistake, runs a little bit wide, but Ramos can't quite capitalise. So we're almost 10 minutes in here in Barcelona. It is Alessandro Balzan who leads from Phil Keane and Peter Cox. Is coming to the end of lap 5 in the fight for 6th position. There you see the fight for third, because Raffaele Giammaria has reeled in Thomas Biaggi very rapidly. And Melnikov is not too far adrift either. Phil Keane has just set the fastest lap of the race, and that was a 1 minute 48.5. Matt Griffin will know that he wants to try and play in Duncan Cameron with the best possible opportunity for a podium, post pit stops, and that means really that he needs to try and hustle his way past Miguel Ramos if he possibly can. Meanwhile, the fight for 4th is well and truly joined, because Raffaele Giammaria, after the frustration of yesterday, after the delay at the first corner today, is now really going to be a driver on the march. See just how hard Melnikov was trying. That would have felt very uncomfortable in the cockpit of the Ferrari. Oh, and Melnikov has a huge slide again coming out of turn 8. Well held for the Russian as he negotiates turn 9, but it's going to be the brakes for turn 10 where that moment may possibly have cost him. Giammaria challenges Biaggi, so Raffaele Giammaria goes up into 4th place to the inside of Thomas Biaggi. That was a great move from Giammaria, and there's also been the sort out behind, or has there? Melnikov gets his elbows out and repasses Miguel Ramos, who just overcommitted on the brakes. Brilliant driving from Ilya Melnikov, mixing it with the 2015 champion. Matt Griffin poised in attendance and passing Lathoras not too far back. You can see that Melnikov is just pushing very, very hard. He's missed his apex on the last couple of turns. They head through to the end of the lap. It's going to be quite the charge towards turn 1. The fight for 6th position arriving towards turn 1. Miguel Ramos looking to the inside of Ilya Melnikov, but he can't pass there because we have still got waved yellow flags for the earlier incident involving Frank Pereira and Jose Perez-Icar. That takes away one of the key overtaking opportunities. At the front of the field, it remains Alessandro Balzan leading the way. Second place is Phil Keane. Third is Peter Cox. Fourth, Raffaele Gianmaria. Fifth is Thomas Biaggi. And then this is the battle for sixth, headed by GTOpen class leader Ilya Melnikov. And Melnikov has got that Ferrari in all the right places at all the right times. It means that Ramos, although he's arguably a little bit quicker, if he could get some clear air, can't get into that clear air. Not that I don't think the Teo Martin Motorsport team will be massively worried. And also homing in on this group very quickly is Andrew Watson. There he is at the very back of your picture, who has served his drive-through penalty, emerged into 10th place. And it is really any one of 9 or 10 cars that could still yet win this one. The pit window opening in about 10 minutes' time, so they've really got to sort this fight out on the track amongst themselves. It's around turn 11. And this final section of the circuit all gets a little bit frustrating, and really the design of it is to encourage overtaking to turn 1. But when you've got those wave jelly flags into turn 1, which we still do, as Phil Keane is a driver to watch for. There is Keane. He didn't get to race yesterday after Sean Balfe was involved in contact with Ezekiel Perez-Companac early on. But Balfe and Keane, they've been on the podium in every single event at which they've appeared in 2015 in the International GTOpen. And currently that looks as if the trend may continue, because they don't have success seconds in the pits to burden them, nor does the race leader Alessandro Balzan. But then in the second half of the race, it's going to be quite an evenly matched battle, actually, between Nicola Benucci, will take over from Balzan, and Sean Balfe when he takes over from Phil Keane. All the while, though, Ilya Melnikov daren't look in his mirrors, but he's got this queue of cars forming behind him, but he is able to withstand the pressure from the Teo Martin Motorsport McLaren. It's then this trio of AF Course Ferraris, which are sandwiching the McLaren. Swoop through turns 7 and 8. This time around, not such a big slide from Ilya Melnikov, and what that means is he can carry that momentum uphill into turn 9. Here is the race leader, Alessandro Balzan. Balzan victorious with Nicola Benucci in the very first race of the year at Paul Ricard. Wonder if they will bookend the season with another triumph. Fight for 6th. They all closed up again on the brakes, but there was no way past Melnikov, and Melnikov is finding that if he puts the car in the middle of the road, there is not an awful lot that Miguel Ramos can do about finding a way past him. And already we are almost at 1/4 race distance. It has been a frenzied and frenetic start to the race, but now the yellow flags have retreated into turn 1. So this is going to be a good opportunity for Miguel Ramos to launch a challenge. The gap between Balzan and Keane at the front of the field is 2.7 seconds. Now here we go, Miguel Ramos, the inside of Ilya Melnikov. Does he back himself on the brakes? He draws alongside and goes through. Or does he? Yes, he does. Melnikov tries to fight back, but he can't quite do it. And Ramos gains the place immediately. Matt Griffin looks to challenge around the outside at turn 3, and Griffin might well just have that pay off for him. He keeps the momentum, keeps the throttle in, and does indeed go all the way around Ilya Melnikov, who is also passed by passing the Thoras and slots back into position in 9th. But Melnikov still comfortably leading the GTOpen class. Passing the Thoras, having a fairly low-key stint at the moment, running in tandem with Matt Griffin. All the while, Alessandro Balzan is some 20 seconds up the road ahead of that battle. Balzan not detonating the field in the way that Michele Rugolo and Alvaro Parent did in the first half of yesterday's race, but at the same time, for the Valour Course team, building up a nice buffer nonetheless. The lead over Phil Keane has just extended out to over 3 seconds now. As Balzan picks up the throttle, concludes the 9th tour of the circuit. There you see in the background, headlights ablaze, is Peter Cox. Cox last time around a little bit quicker than Phil Keane, but the quickest car in the race now is Raffaele Gianmaria, and Gianmaria only 10 seconds adrift of Balzan's lead. Again, doesn't have success seconds to worry about in the pits, and could this be a 5th triumph of the year for Gianmaria and Ezequiel Perez-Companac? Sean Balfe and team watch the progress of Phil Keane from the pit gantry. And certainly there is every possibility for Balfe and Keane to get a podium from this race. Peter Cox will pass over to Nico Pronk at mid-distance, and Nico's slightly less experienced than some of the other drivers in the field. May end up slipping down the pack a little bit. And there you see in the background the 4th place car, Raffaele Gianmaria. And Gianmaria, that last lap really was something quite special. Half a second up on the pace of Peter Cox. Cox will probably stay out until the tail end of the pit window. In 5th, we still have Thomas Biaggi. 6th is Miguel Ramos. 7th, Matt Griffin. 8th, Pascal Thoris. 9th, GTAM leader Ilya Melnikov. And 10th place, Andrew Watson. That drive-through penalty ultimately costing him just shy of 30 seconds. Peter Cox has raced pretty much in every category of motorsport you care to mention. Probably best known to British fans for his days in the British Touring Car Championship, but also then has really been the driver to watch for in a range of international sports car competition. The bad news is that he is now under investigation, so we understand, for that contact with Matt Griffin a few laps ago. It's be interesting to see whether or not he incurs a drive-through penalty in the same way that Andrew Watson did. For now, though, Cox in the McLaren is in a very secure 3rd position. He's not really pressurising Phil Keane, but at the same time, Raffaele Gianmaria not quite able to get onto terms with him as we approach 1/3 race distance. And only now, really, after the dramatic flurry of the opening laps, is the race beginning to fall into some sort of pattern. There is Alvaro Prent just readying himself in the Teo Martin Motorsport pit, which is a possible indication that Miguel Ramos will be in fairly early in the pit window. They've got a long pit stop, 30 seconds of success seconds to contend with as well, from 6th place. So I'd imagine they'll look to give Alvaro Prent as long as possible behind the wheel to see what he can do about bringing that time back. Gianmaria is going to be promoted into 3rd place because there has been a drive-through penalty awarded to Peter Cox for causing a collision. The car in 3rd on the road then will have to serve that drive-through penalty. There's the confirmation of it for you. That investigation didn't take too long. So over the line, we're on to lap 12. All the while, though, Gianmaria easing clear of Thomas Biaggi, and Thomas Biaggi able to match his pace really to that of Miguel Ramos. So he has got about 7 seconds worth of an advantage before he hands over to Angelo Pizzucchi for the 2nd phase of the race. The pit window opening in just a couple of moments' time now. Be interesting to see at what point they, of course, bring in Gianmaria to hand over to Ezequiel Perez-Companac, because there isn't a huge amount to choose between the pair of them. But at the moment, with Gianmaria running in clear air, there's also no particular need to bring the car into the pits. Peter Cox, well, will he come in on this occasion, or see if he can eke out another lap or so before having the drive-through penalty? It is a 20-second pit loop, plus obviously the deceleration and acceleration time. And on that basis, I think he's going to feed out probably into about 10th position when all is said and done. But if he does keep running, he might just be able to touch and go. I think Andrew Watson will be just ahead of him when he has been through for the drive-through penalty. Now here is Watson in the second of the Theo Martin Motorsport McLarens, asking all sorts of questions now of Ilya Melnikov. He's caught Melnikov, he's also caught passing the Thoras in the battle for 8th, 9th and 10th. But I'm sure that Melnikov will offer as stout a defence to Watson as he did to Miguel Ramos a couple of laps ago. And Watson and Monnier, of course, as well, after their success yesterday, have got a fair amount of time to be spending in the pits as well. So everything that Andrew Watson can gain at this stage is very important to give Fernando Monnier any hope of progress. You can see the ground that Ramos and Griffin have opened up, overpassing the Thoras and then Melnikov. Is Watson close enough to challenge Ilya Melnikov? No, he's not. Bursts out of the bubble, has a little bit of a look, nothing doing. Slots back into order in 10th place. Alessandro Balzan, our race leader, 2.7 seconds up on Phil Keane. Peter Cox not going in for the drive-through penalty on the last occasion as Melnikov runs a little bit wide on the exit of turn 3 and then preemptively covers the inside line for turn 4. Does that cause him to understeer out wide? Yes, it does. Can Andrew Watson take advantage? He might aim for the switchback into turn 5. There's a gap to the inside line. Watson possibly a little bit chastened from earlier on. Thinks better of that one. So remains in train behind Melnikov. It's that failed field flick through the left, then the right, then left uphill into another right-hander at turn 9 before heading down towards the braking zone at turn 10. We're approaching half-race distance in this final race of the season for the International GTOpen. We're currently watching the battle for 9th and 10th place between Ilya Melnikov and Andrew Watson. Alessandro Balzan is our race leader from Phil Keane and Peter Cox, but Cox has got a drive-through penalty hanging over his head as the pit window is open, and straight in is Miguel Ramos to hand over to Alvaro Parent in the Theo Martin Motorsport McLaren. It's going to feel like a very, very long pit stop, this, for Ramos and Parent. But because of that, they don't have to rush through the pit stop. Now, they've had a remarkable run. They've not been off the podium since race 2 at the Red Bull Ring back at the start of July. They've been right up there ever since. And will they be able to keep that run of results ongoing? Passing the Thoras also in to hand over to Michele Rugolo. It's just not quite been passing the Thoras' weekend. Meanwhile, Alessandro Balzan and Phil Keane at the front of the field, we'd expect to see them staying out until the end of the pit window, which is when we have got something like 24 minutes left on the clock. So 12-minute pit window. Also in is Miguel Sardinia, and that is going to be Manuel da Costa, who takes over from him. Leaps into the Sport Anew Gullwing Mercedes. A little bit of assistance, clipping everybody in. Meanwhile, the battle between Ilya Melnikov and Andrew Watson remains as it ever was. Now, yesterday we saw Monnier and Watson having exactly half the race each. Just wonder whether or not there might be a case to bring in Watson a lap or two early if he's bottled up behind Melnikov like this. Peter Cox into the pit lane for his drive-through penalty, and suddenly the race is turned into flux just a little bit. Here is the reason for it. Going for a gap to the inside of Matt Griffin that was always closing. He wasn't quite alongside enough. And it was Griffin who was turned into the spin. Harry Proxic, meanwhile, will take over in the HP Racing Lamborghini from Coach McKenzie, who is out of the car. And Watson does stay out there, and he's now lining up the move on Melnikov to the inside at turn 1 and is able to ease past, gains the place. And now Andrew Watson has got a little bit of empty asphalt ahead of him to see what he can do. He's got a couple of the cars possibly that have just emerged from pit stops that will be his next target. Indeed so. It's Peter Cox after the drive-through penalty. It's Manuel da Costa who has had his full-blown pit stop. There is Cox then. Manuel da Costa won't present too much of a barrier, I don't think, to Andrew Watson to carve past. Indeed he doesn't. Watson able to ease past and on his way through turns 7 and 8 now, climbing uphill towards turn 9. Now it's quite handy for Watson really to have Peter Cox ahead of him. It is a battle for position, 6th and 7th place, but also in terms of making sure he measures his pace. Meanwhile, Ilya Melnikov eases the inside of Manuel da Costa. Melnikov in 8th. 9th place is currently Yannick Malagol. And in 10th, we've got Miguel Amaral in the DriveX Audi, which had that huge spin. Turn 3 early on. We returned the race leader, Alessandro Balzan, his lead over Phil Keane, hovering at around about the 2-second mark. They're 10 seconds clear of Raffaele Giammaria. Actually lapping a little bit quicker than Giammaria. As into the pit lane comes Miguel Amaral. It's going to be Cesar Campanico, who has been very quick in recent past the GTOpen in the Nova Driver Audi, who will take over from him. Amaral gets out. Campanico gets to work as Miguel Ramos, or rather Alvaro Perent, moves past Thomas Biaggi. Michele Rugolo has emerged from the pits, in fact, just behind Alvaro Perent. And that has really been the title battle all year. The Teo Martin Motorsport McLaren, the AF Course Ferrari of Rugolo and Lethoras. And Michele Rugolo, I'm sure, would like to finish the season by getting at least up ahead of the Teo Martin Motorsport McLaren. At the moment, he's got Thomas Biaggi, who is running in 4th place, having not yet had his pit stop to pick his way past. And Biaggi, as a result, completely impervious to Rugolo flashing his headlights. This is a battle that could become a little bit more significant later on in the race. So Biaggi is going to be loath to concede the track position to Michele Rugolo, unless he really has to, because it might be that Biaggi's co-driver, Angelo Bazzucchi, will be needing to hold off Rugolo in the closing couple of laps. But Biaggi does move aside at the chicane. Rugolo darts past on his way. We are almost at half race distance. Balzan still leading from Keane and Giammaria. The cars we're watching, Alvaro Perent and Michele Rugolo, they have had their pit stops. Michele Rugolo was immense in yesterday's race. See here the move on Thomas Biaggi, really harrying Alvaro Perent in the early stages yesterday. Both drivers pushing their cars maybe a little bit more than they intended. Into the pit lane comes Ilya Melnikov to pass over to Claudio Sadanovic. Melnikov out of the Ferrari almost instantaneously. Sadanovic jumps in. The AF Course team get to work, putting on some slightly fresher Michelin tyres that will see Sadanovic through to the checkered flag. Race leader Balzan, his last lap was a 1 minute 49.5. Alvaro Perent has just, however, set the fastest lap of the race with a 1 minute 47.9. So whilst Balzan and Keane have been flying in formation at the front of the field, what they've not been doing is running at the sort of pace that's actually going to really detonate the field. So this could be absolutely fascinating as we head towards the closing stages, particularly with the likes of Perent, Rugolo, Ezequiel Perez-Companac, all in good contention. Howard Blank, meanwhile, taking over from Yannick Malagol. And that's going to be the battle amongst the GTAM runners, Howard Blank and Claudio Sadanovic for GTAM honours. Sandro Balzan, I expect we'll see him probably ducking to the pits at the end of this lap, if not the next one, before handing over to Nicola Benucci. As Thomas Biaggi elects to make his pit stop now, and that will be Angelo Bazzucchi take over in the Krypton Porsche, and they don't have any success seconds. So this could play out quite nicely for Angelo Pizzucchi. Once the order sort of establishes itself again in the next few minutes. Also into the pits is Andrew Watson after a fairly lively stint for Fernando Monnier to take over. You can see just how often these teams practice the pit stops through the course of the weekend, making sure the driver changes are as slick as possible by the point that we get to go racing. Because although you can't win the race in the pits, you can certainly lose it. Balzan and Keane, the gap from first to second, just eking downwards ever so slightly. There is Nicola Benucci. Benucci poised and ready to go, which would indicate that Balzan is most likely thinking about making his pit stop at the end of this, the 18th lap of the race. Negotiates the chicane at the end of the lap. No, he is going to continue on his way, but Phil Keane does duck into the pits to pass over to Sean Balfe. And that's been a very good stint from Phil Keane. He drove a really fantastic opening lap of the race to bring the car into contention. And then he and Balzan have just been able to eke out that near enough 10-second advantage over Raffaele Giammaria. It's Phil Keane out, Sean Balfe in again. This is a car that doesn't have any pit handicap. So once Sean Balfe emerges, that could all be to his advantage. The same, of course, for the Vlorba course Ferrari. It's great really to see the car here at all at Barcelona this weekend after the huge accident for Nicola Benucci in Monza. Also into the pits, though possibly not quite as scheduled for Matt Griffin. Just runs past his pit box. Griffin will be frustrated with that. He jumps out of the car. Duncan Cameron hops in. And again, some tyres going on. Now into turn 10 for Nicola Benucci. He will have to pit in at the end of this lap because there's now less than a lap time left in the pit window as Sean Balfe emerges from the pits. So he is essentially racing the car which is just about to go into the pit lane, that of Alessandro Balzan. Also yet to pit in, not unsurprisingly, is Raffaele Giammaria. And Giammaria, superb performance from him to get that car up into within 10 seconds of the lead of the race, having lost all that ground on the first lap. Balzan jumps on the anchors, brings the Vlorba course Ferrari down to the pit lane speed limit. Rolls a good long way down the pit lane. Looks for the signal of the Vlorba course team. Runs to his marks. Door open. The instant the car is stopped, Balzan leaps out. The much taller frame of Nicola Benucci clambers in. Giammaria also handing over to Ezequiel Perez-Companac. And again, change of tyres for the AF course Ferrari. What does all of this mean in terms of race order? The answer is that of those that have pitted, it's Sean Balfe who is foremost in the queue. There is Alvaro Parent. Now, the challenge here for Alvaro is that he is actually half a lap behind the cars that are currently in the pit lane. Peter Cox hands over the McLaren to Nico Pronk. Parent is 43 seconds back from Sean Balfe, and over 24 minutes. That is going to be a big, big ask for Parent to chase down Balfe. Balfe comes past the commentary box now as the pit window closes. Now, where has Nicola Benucci emerged? There is Nicola Benucci. So Benucci is, for my money, the race leader. And then it's going to be very close between Balfe and Perez-Companac. We find out possibly through the end of this first sector. So Benucci is leading the way. having taken over from Balzan. Second place is Sean Balfe. He's 6 seconds back from Nicola Bonucci. And third place is Ezequiel Perez-Companac, who is 11 seconds back from Bonucci. So we have got a real fight in our hands in the final third of this last race of the season here in the International GT Open Circuit Barcelona, Catalonia. Now, this is going to be fascinating, the pace of Nicola Bonucci relative to that of Sean Balfe, but also both of their abilities to hold off the charging. Ezequiel Perez-Companac, well, Balfe has already taken a second out of Bonucci, but at the rate of capture, my best reckoning is that Perez-Companac and Balfe are both going to be catching Bonucci simultaneously. There is then in fourth place a 10-second gap back to Angelo Pizzucchi, and then Alvaro Parent is 46 seconds back from this leading battle. Balfe picks up the throttle coming through the final turn, and Nicola Bonucci already across the line. Balfe follows through now, 4.4 seconds back from Bonucci, and then Perez-Companac is 9.2 seconds back from the lead. He's 5 seconds back from Balfe. Then at the very back of the shot, you just saw a glimpse of Angelo Pizzucchi. Meanwhile, here is Alvaro Parent to the inside of Duncan Cameron. That a pass for position. It's enough to elevate Alvaro to 5th in the Teo Martin Motorsport. McLaren, and then Cameron going around the outside of Nico Pronk, who has now slipped down into 8th place. Well, this is going to be fascinating. Sandro Balzan watching the timing screen. It doesn't make the happiest of reading, you'd have to say, through the first sector on the lap. Sean Balfe 0.3 quicker than Nicola Bonucci, and with a third of the race remaining, then Balfe can luxuriate almost in how quickly he reels in the Valour Course Ferrari. So just shy of 21 minutes remaining here in Barcelona. Nicola Bonucci leads the way from Sean Balfe, but Balfe is rapidly reeling in Bonucci. In third place, we have Ezequiel Perez-Companac, who is a second a lap quicker than Balfe. He's 2 seconds a lap quicker than Bonucci. Fourth place is Angelo Pizzucchi. In 5th, we have our champion Alvaro Parent. 6th is Michele Rugolo. 7th, Duncan Cameron. 8th, Nico Pronk. 9th, Fernando Monnier. And 10th, Claudio Sadanovic. But it's all about this top 3 and then the pace with which Parent can reel all of them in. It was a 1:52.4 for Bonucci, a 1:51.3 for Balfe, a 1:49.9 for Perez-Companac. The leading trio of cars now covered by just 6.7 seconds. And will it be a 5th triumph of the season for Ezequiel Perez-Companac after the disappointment of yesterday? There is Angelo Pizzucchi. He's got Cesar Campanico near him on the track, but Campanico unfortunately a lap down in the DriveX Audi. And Pizzucchi closing on Bonucci, but not very rapidly. The driver who's closing up onto all of them is Alvaro Parent, and Parent is currently 2 seconds a lap quicker than Perez-Companac. He is 4 seconds a lap quicker than Nicola Bonucci, and he has got time at that sort of rate of capture to close to Bonucci between now and the end of the race. Well, Cesar Campanico unlaps himself, eases past Angelo Pizzucchi in the Krypton Porsche of the GTOpen class. That's being led by Claudio Sadanovic. He's 10 seconds clear of Manuel da Costa. Sandro Balzan watching on, and he and Phil Keane did all they could in the opening phase of the race, but it may prove to not be quite enough. The other real problem now for Bonucci, as we follow Fernando Monnier, is that he is about to close up onto a little bit of traffic. Monnier currently in 8th. He is a minute off the lead. Good 25-30 seconds of that. prompted by the drive-through penalty that the car had to serve earlier on in the race after contact with Ewan Hankey on the first lap. Now here is Alvaro Prent, who is the driver on the move in 5th. Victory feels unlikely. A podium, however, is on the cards for the Teo Martin Motorsport McLaren. It would be their 7th in succession, if indeed it does come off. Now, what sort of time for Perent? A 1 minute 48.4. So 3.5 seconds quicker than Nicola Benucci. He's 34.4 seconds adrift of Benucci. And Benucci, the race leader, has now got Sean Balfe and Ezequiel Perez-Compagnac both within 4 seconds of him. And all the while, this McLaren is catching them all through the first sector. And Perent, yep, 7/10 quicker than the race leader Benucci, but Benucci, I suspect, is going to be passed for the lead on this lap because the leading trio are running as one over on the far side of the circuit. All the while, they've got this McLaren chasing them down. And here we have the battle at the front of the field. They're in amongst a little bit of traffic. That is Howard Blank and Harry Proxic, who are also busy fighting. So here is Sean Balfe. Benucci has been able to clear that traffic. There is Nicola Benucci in the Valour-Bacause Ferrari. Ezequiel Perez-Compagnac closing up as well. Looks to the inside of Howard Blank and is able to pick his way past. So this lap may have given Benucci just a little bit of respite. But the leading trio covered by 3 seconds. Headlights ablaze from Sean Balfe. And I know that Balfe was very keen to apologise to Ezequiel Perez-Compagnac yesterday evening after the contact they made early on in yesterday's race. It was just one of those things. A lot of cars crowded through the first turn, but Perez-Compagnac fortunately getting tagged. But now, podium on the cards, a race win on the cards. Really depends as well whether Perez-Compagnac and Balfe are prepared to work together or whether or not they will start fighting over second place rather than both getting on to terms with Benucci. What it means is already Balfe, just having to consult his mirrors, is now matching Benucci's pace, which is in the high 1 minute 51 second bracket through turn 9, and you just wonder whether or not Perez-Compagnac in fact is going to find a way past Sean Balfe as they head towards turn 10. Perez-Compagnac uses all the road on the exit. Balfe looks to cover the inside line. Does the Argentinian duck out? He doesn't quite. Sean Balfe does just enough to defend. Crucially, he gets the car stopped on the apex. But Balfe and Benucci now running at identical pace, and that, with a quarter of the race remaining, is going to give the Valour-Bacause Ferrari just a little bit of respite, because as Perez-Compagnac and Balfe do battle, it will allow Benucci to enjoy, such as it is, that just shy of 2 seconds advantage at the front of the field. Across the line then, completing lap 24. Benucci 1 minute 51.5, Balfe 1 minute 51.3, Perez-Compagnac a 1 minute 50.5, 1.9 seconds to cover the top three as Perez-Compagnac looks to the inside of Sean Balfe. But the problem is, these two Ferraris will of course have very similar braking characteristics, so outbraking Sean Balfe is going to be really tricky for Ezequiel Perez-Compagnac. Instead, he looks to launch the brave move, challenging to the outside at turn 3, then aiming for the switchback on the exit. As they head almost side by side into turn 4, Sean Balfe still just able to hold on to that second place. Just under 14 minutes left in the race, and as this battle for second place intensifies, Nicola Benucci, who was being caught to the tune of about a second a lap, is now just able to have a little bit of daylight. There is Raffaele Gianmaria, thumbs up. I think he knows full well that the win is here for the taking. It's a case of just how quickly Ezequiel Perez-Compagnac can find the opportunity to pick his way past Sean Balfe. Balfe on this occasion knows that he's got enough of a buffer into turn 10 to not even have to defend the inside line. And again, that intensifies the challenge for Perez Compagnac, because as long as Sean Balfe sticks to the racing line, doesn't brake too early for the corners, and works on his exit speed, then there's very little really that Ezequiel Perez Compagnac can do. So they negotiate the final chicane. Balfe picks up the throttle again, focus on the exit speed, not the mid-corner speed. And that means across the line, they are actually a little bit closer to Bonucci. Bonucci now within a second of Sean Balfe's clutches, and this is smart driving from Perez Compagnac and Sean Balfe. If they work in tandem, they don't start fighting with each other, then they're going to be on terms with Bonucci certainly by the end of this lap. It is a thrilling finale to the GTOpen season. All the while, I should tell you that Alvaro Pren is catching this group of cars at a rate of 4 seconds a lap. And consequently, he's only 23 seconds off the lead. He only needs 6 laps to get to them, and there's time for 7 more in this race, including the one that they're on. So this is far from over. As again, Perez Compagnac thinks about lining up the move on Sean Balfe. Balfe has to defend just a little bit. It takes away some of his opportunity to challenge, but again, he gets excellent exit speed coming out of turn 8, uphill towards turn 9. Balfe moves across, covers the line just a little bit earlier. Now is Perez Compagnac going to be poised to have a little bit of a challenge into turn 10? Certainly thinks about it. Balfe parks the car in the middle of the road. There's no way through for the Argentinian, who looks to the outside then will attempt for the switchback. All the while, they've now caught Nicola Bonucci. This is brilliant racing. Both Balfe and Perez Compagnac are a little bit quicker than Bonucci, but it's now Bonucci who can dictate the pace. And Sean Balfe caught in the invidious position, really, of having to attack and defend simultaneously. Balfe, who's raced with great success in Spanish GTs, also former star of the Radical European Masters, has got many miles under the belt. He knows exactly where he needs to place the car at any given time as he moves across the inside of the road, and the reason for that is Ezequiel Perez Compagnac is coming, and Perez Compagnac draws alongside. Who is feeling bravest on the brakes? Perez Compagnac gets the jump on Sean Balfe, moves into second place through turn 1 and into turn 2, and now it's Perez Compagnac who takes his turn to immediately latch on to Nicola Bonucci and start challenging him. Through turn 3, the trio of Ferraris. Then towards turn 4, and looking to the inside is Perez Compagnac. Bonucci in the Vlorba course car moves to defend from the AF course machine of Perez Compagnac. Then we've got the Balfe Motorsport car of Sean Balfe. Again, Bonucci, car in all the right places, leaves the door open, in fact, to the inside for Sean Balfe to have a little bit of a sneak if he was able to. But that's a good exit from turn 5 from Perez Compagnac. He's going to go through surely into turn 7 on the brakes, and Ezequiel Perez Compagnac takes the lead of the race with 10 minutes remaining. And now, as long as Bonucci defends from Sean Balfe, Perez Compagnac might have the chance to disappear, but it's the turn of Balfe, if he can, to find a way past Bonucci. Will he do so on the brakes into turn 10? Not on this occasion. He's probably going to take a lap or so to size up what Bonucci's doing. The cars squirm under acceleration as Perez Compagnac already opening up a little bit of daylight. And that, a very, very timely pass from Ezequiel Perez Compagnac, because it releases him to build a little bit of a buffer. And, well, certainly if Gianmaria and Perez Compagnac were to return to the championship next year, they would be very solid favourites coming to the season. Here's the move for the lead of the race. Perez Compagnac to the inside. Gianmaria celebrates it, and rightly so. They've already won, of course, this year in Estoril, Silverstone, Red Bull Ring and Monza, as Balfe tries every which way to overhaul Nicola Bonucci. Great stuff from Bonucci, though, able to defend, but then he slides wide at turn 3. That's going to give Balfe the opportunity if he carries the traction. He's got the inside line for turn 4. Has he got the commitment on the brakes? Yes, he does. Can he hold the line? Yes. And so Sean Balfe goes through, snatches second position. The Valour Course Ferrari slips to third. Now, has Bonucci got anything in the tank to come back at Sean Balfe? Meanwhile, here is Alvaro Parent battling with Angelo Pizzucchi. Pizzucchi outbraking himself, lapping Howard Blank, and through goes Parent up into fourth place. Now that is, again, potentially very significant in terms of the way that the rest of this race is going to play out. We've got just under 8 minutes remaining. The lead for Perez Compagnac is 3.5 seconds over Sean Balfe. Nicola Bonucci is in third place, and Bonucci is only 11 seconds clear of Alvaro Parent. So, as Sean Balfe will attempt to ease away from the Valour Course Ferrari, a more pressing concern, I think, for Nicola Bonucci is going to be the progress of the car that's up into fourth. Bonucci jinks through the chicane as the race leader, Ezequiel Perez Compagnac, completes lap 28. He leads from Sean Balfe, Nicola Bonucci, Alvaro Parent, Angelo Pizzucchi and Michele Rugolo, completing the top 6. Alvaro Parent heading into the braking zone for the 29th time in the race, and there you see the rate of capture from Alvaro Parent to Nicola Bonucci. He is 9 seconds adrift of the Italian. There's also been a change in the GTOpen lead. That is now Manuel da Costa who leads in the Sporting Mercedes, having found a way past Claudio Sadanovic. Now Parent, there's not much time left in the race, but there is enough if he can continue this rate of capture at around about 3 seconds a lap to possibly nudge the Valour Course Ferrari off the podium. It'd be massively disappointing for Bonucci and Balzan. They've not been on the rostrum since the first race at the Red Bull Ring, but prior to that had been on the podium more often than not. That really is a little bit symptomatic of the way that the second half of the season has gone. Now, Bonucci, a 43.5 as his middle sector. Alvaro Parent, a 41.5. He's 2 seconds quicker than Nicola Bonucci just through the middle sector on the lap. And this is brilliant stuff from 2015 International GTOpen champion Alvaro Parent in the Teo Martin Motorsport McLaren. Immaculately prepared car. And they have got the Valour Course Ferrari, Valour Course, who've had so much success over the years in the International GTOpen, now very much in their sights. You can see the trainer cars up ahead of him. Just 4 laps remaining as across the line for Alvaro Parent. 3.6 seconds, his deficit to Nicola Bonucci. Ezequiel Perez Compagnac remains our race leader from Sean Balfe. Then it's this chase for third and fourth. Here is our new leader in the GTOpen class, Manuel da Costa, in the Sport & U Mercedes. He leads the class from Claudio Sadanovic and Howard Blank. Good to see the Sport & U Mercedes going well this weekend. Hands of Manuel da Costa and Miguel Sardina. Negotiating turn 9. And there you can see the car that he's just passed, Claudio Sadanovic in the AF Course Ferrari. Sadanovic and Melnikov, who were class victors yesterday. So we're heading into the final 4 minutes or so of the race of the season 2. And the Mercedes rumbling through this final section now. Here we go. What a lap for Alvaro Parent. He's right onto terms with Nicola Bonucci. I suspect that Bonucci's tyres have possibly cried enough, because the pace of the Valour Course Ferrari has rather dropped away, and Alvaro Parent thought he was going to get him on the last lap. Instead, he has closed up with several laps remaining. He thinks about a little bit of a look to the inside. Can't quite do it into the final chicane, but you suspect that the run along the start and finish straight should be enough to give Alvaro Parent the opportunity to surge past, particularly as he can benefit from the tow behind the Ferrari. The pair of them run along the start and finish straight. Parent comes out of the bubble nice and early. He has got plenty of confidence on the brakes. He eases alongside the Valour course car and goes through, takes third position. Quite an incredible drive from Alvaro Parent, because he has overcome a 30-second pit handicap. It means that it will be 7 rostrums in succession if it stays as it is for Alvaro Parent and Miguel Ramos. And that is the sort of run of form that takes you to the championship. There is, of course, a little bit of a question about whether or not Parent will actually be able to chase down Sean Balfe between now and the flag. I think that's slightly more unlikely. Meanwhile, here comes Angelo Pizzucchi, and Pizzucchi, and this is going to make Happy reading on the timing screen, it's a good couple of seconds lap quicker than Bonucci. Then here is Michele Rugolo in 6th place. Rugolo currently the fastest car on the circuit. His last lap of 1 minute 48.7, and that means that he's pulling well clear of Fernando Monnier in 7th. And Michele Rugolo so often this season has worked wonders. He just hasn't quite had the chance to do so today. And I think barring real misfortune for any of the cars in front, 6th is possibly as good as it's going to get, because Ezequiel Perez Companac is going to be starting the last lap of the race this time around. Michele Rugolo runs through the stadium section, puts the lap on to Nico Pronk. We go into the last lap of the race. It's been a very entertaining race to bring the season to a close. Rugolo heads through the final turn, long past the pit board, which will tell him there is 1 lap to go. Here is our race leader, Ezequiel Perez Companac. He and Raffaele Giammaria have had more than their fair share of bad luck this year, but they have also won more races than anybody else in the International GTOpen for 2015. And this is looking like it's going to be a 5th win in 14 races. Perez Companac picks his way around Claudio Sadanovic and then heads downhill, gets on the brakes and then picks up the throttle again. Coming out of turn 8 on towards turn 9, headlights ablaze. Yeah, of course, Ferrari not missing a beat at all today. 2nd place for Sean Balfe. Well, he and Phil King continue their run of a podium in each event that they've participated in this year in the GTOpen, as running the flat curb for Ezequiel Perez Companac. It's Claudio Sadanovic. Here is Sean Balfe. It's 4.5 seconds back. Alvaro Parent is closing up, but he's not going to be on terms with Balfe between now and the flag. Through the final chicane, the clock about to tick to 0. It has been a very, very nicely judged performance from Ezequiel Perez Companac and Raffaele Giammaria. They take the checkered flag and victory in the final race of the GTOpen season, their 5th win of the year. Runners-up, Sean Balfe and Phil Keen. Alvaro Parent and Miguel Ramos, a magnificent drive to take 3rd place for Teo Martin Motorsport. 5 wins to celebrate for Perez Companac and Giammaria. Phil Keen and Sean Balfe, all smiles after the disappointment of yesterday. They have bounced back in perfect fashion, and a charging performance again from Parent to give he and Miguel Ramos their 7th podium in succession. Nicola Bonucci and Alessandro Balzan in 4th, Angelo Pizzucchi and Thomas Biaggi taking 5th from Michele Rugolo, passing the Thoras in 6th. GTM honours being claimed by Manuel da Costa and Miguel Sardinia. Well, now that the season is over, it is time to begin with the celebrations in earnest. Huge smile from Miguel Ramos and all of the Teo Martin Motorsport team. They had a tough time in the first couple of rounds of the year as they were getting to grips with McLaren, but thereafter, once they got the sweet spot on the setup sorted, then they have really been unsurpassable thereafter. Ezequiel Perez-Compagnac and Raffaele Gianmaria celebrating a 5th win of the year. And are we going to see some celebratory donuts from Ezequiel Perez-Compagnac? Don't think so. Let's have a look at the classification then. So Perez-Compagnac and Gianmaria taking the win. Sean Balfe and Phil Keane, excellent run to be runners-up. 3rd place for Alvaro Prent and Miguel Ramos, and also claiming the fastest lap. 4th for Alessandro Balzan and Nicola Benucci. 5th for Angelo Pizzucchi and Thomas Biaggi. 6th, Pascal Thoros and Michele Ruglo. 7th, despite the drive-through penalty, Fernando Monnier and Andrew Watson just clear of Cameron and Griffin. So then, Aldo Costa and Miguel Sardinia, they win the GTOpen class from Claudio Stanvic and Ilya Melnikov. Sets Campanico, Miguel Amaral into 11th place. Yannick Malagol and Howard Blank, will they complete the GTOpen podium? So in terms of the championship at the end of the year, Prent and Ramos worthy champions. Rugolo and the Thoras and Gianmaria and Perez-Compagnac gave it their very, very best throughout the course of the season. Benucci and Balzan, if they return next year, will, I'm sure, be strong title contenders, as will Sean Balfe and Phil Keane if they manage to make it to every event. But look at the celebrations, Raffaele Gianmaria and Ezequiel Perez-Compagnac. Wonderful emotion down in Parc Ferme. Fantastic scenes in the Parc Ferme here at the Circuit Barcelona, Catalunya, for the conclusion of the international GTOpen season. Alvaro Prent celebrating with a few donuts. He and Miguel Ramos are our champions. They're on the podium again as Miguel Ramos. Congratulations, his co-driver. The singing has started. Ramos and Prent are the champions. Perez-Compagnac and Gianmaria, today's race winners. As the crowd assembles in Parc Ferme, Gianmaria goes across to offer his congratulations, and likewise, because Gianmaria driving fantastically well, having been delayed with that unfortunate first corner coming together between Franck Pereira and Jose Perez-Icart. There is our GTOpen winning car of Miguel Sardinia, Manuel da Costa. And again, the Portuguese flag out in celebration for the pair of them.
Raffaele Gianmaria, Ezequiel Perez-Compagnac, a perfect end of the season with this 5th victory. You are the pair that has won most races in the championship.
Yeah, for us it's a very, very good result. We finished the championship with most victory than the others who won the championship. Congratulations to the McLaren, Ramos and Parente, but they won 3 races. Unfortunately, we had some problems during the season. The collision in Spa yesterday in the first corner, so that things add with other things avoid to for us it was a problem to reach an higher position in the final classification. But congratulations to F Corse, to Ezequiel, because it's a real first year in GT. It's the first year, so fantastic job for him, for the team, and I'm very, very happy.
Yes, indeed. Very good job from Ezekiel, and very, very nice end of the race here, race 2, with a strong performance and passing everybody to take victory.
Yeah, I'm really happy for Rafa, for the team, and I think the race, this result could have been yesterday, but in the first corner, suddenly, out of nowhere, I was taken out. So, but yesterday was yesterday, today, we won. So really happy again, and now to celebrate. Congratulations to the McLaren for the championship, and I'm really happy as for Rafa also because we did an amazing job with all the progress and everything. I think we did a fantastic season. So next year for the top, we go for the top. Yeah.
Well done, guys. See you soon.
Look back at the highlights of the race then, and very difficult initially for Rafael Di Maria, caught up in that collision between Jose Perez Icon and Franck Pereira, which put Icon Pereira into retirement. Ewan Hankey also an early casualty after he was tapped into that spin by Andrew Watson, for which Watson earned a drive-through penalty. Peter Cox earned the same for that contact with Matt Griffin, which spun the AF Course Ferrari around. Thereafter, there was some brilliant battling in the midfield as Miguel Ramos picked his way past Ilya Melnikov at the front of the pack. It was Alessandro Balzan and Phil Keane who were busy being the pace setters. Post pit stop, and as Balzan handed over to Benucci, both Sean Balfe and Ezekiel Perez Compenac closed up into contention. Perez Compenac in the space of a couple of corners, first of all able to get past Sean Balfe, and then a few moments later able to ease past Nicola Benucci, much to the delight of Raffaele Giammaria. It was a 5th victory of the season for Perez Compenac and Giammaria, and they will be back next year, judging by that interview, with very much the intention of claiming the championship. Second place went the way of Sean Balfe and Phil Keane. An excellent drive to snatch third for Alvaro Brent and Miguel Ramos. So applause and celebrations in Parc Ferme as we're about to get underway with the final podium of the 2015 season. Don't forget to visit the GTOpen website throughout the winter to keep up with all of the news and driver announcements for next year's championship, which will be getting underway in late April at the Estoril circuit, the 23rd and 24th of April, so make sure that you don't miss that one. There's the paddock assembling at the foot of the podium, ready to celebrate for the final time this year. 5 wins, say the AF Course team. So the drivers about to make their appearance up on to the rostrum. The cheers about to start. So 3rd place for Alvaro Brent and Miguel Ramos. Delighted drivers for Teo Martin Motorsport. Runners up, Sean Balfe and Phil Keane for the Balfe Racing team. Great drive from Sean to respond to the disappointment yesterday, and Phil Keane always to be relied upon to absolutely fly. And our race winners, Raffaele Giammaria and Ezekiel Perez Compenac, onto the top step of the podium for AF Course. the Italian national anthem in honour of the AF Course team, victorious in the final race of the International GTOpen season here at the circuit, Barcelona, Catalonia. As we move on to the presentation of the trophies, first of all for Ramos and Parent in third place. Runners up, Sean Balfe and Phil Keane. And our race winners for the fifth time, Rafael Gianmaria and Ezequiel Perez Compenac. And of course, the winning team, AF Course, and already Rafael Gianmaria making merry with the champagne and giving Miguel Ramos a good drenching. The same for Sean Balfe. Wonderful scenes on the podium at the end of what's been a fantastic season of racing. We have had some extremely close action and some great dicing. Ramos and Perent flying the Portuguese flag with pride on the rostrum as we prepare for the GTM podium. But it's time to say goodbye from Estoril, from myself, Ben Evans, from Barcelona, from myself, Ben Evans. Thanks for joining us this season. We will see you at Estoril in April 2016.
Vamos a escuchar el himno del Portugal.